Welcome to Adventures of the Awakening Heart, where we explore the heart in all its forms physical, energetic, and spiritual. And through the stories of our guests, allow the heart to reveal its mysterious truths and infinite wisdom. Today, we really have quite a story for you, a story of healing, of growth, and of transformation. And ultimately, this is a story about how one individual has found a way to live a truly heartful life. That individual, it just so happens, is a good friend of mine, Stu, and I've been encouraging him to record this interview for a little while. Now, Stu is not one to shout about his life, but he is a person who goes out of his way every day to help others. And so, with the idea that this sharing may inspire others to make positive changes, he's been persuaded that telling his story is a good idea. Hi, Stu.
Hiya.
Welcome. How are
Thank you.
you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. Yeah.
Good, good. I know you're a little bit nervous, but just relax. You're talking to me, and we're just having a chat. And I know that people are really going to enjoy your story. So, we might as well start at the beginning, shall we? Um,
Okay.
so let's because you had quite a lot going on in your childhood. Let's go right back, if we can, to those early days, and let's begin your story there, if you
Right.
wouldn't
Okay.
mind sharing.
Yeah, sure thing. I can dig into my memory.
Yeah.
Well, I started life out in East London. I grew up on a council estate. For the first 6 years of my life, got two brothers, mum, dad, in a high rise. Yeah, it was hard. Then didn't know much about it. You don't know anything else, to be fair. You just live your life and just crack on with it. You don't know anything else.
Yeah.
And then when I was six, we moved house um, into like a terraced house in a nice street, and just took off from there really, and just went through normal life. Went to school, played sports, was reasonably good at sports.
Yeah.
Um, Academically, I was okay. I didn't really get school. It kind of like grated me a little bit, being told what to do and what to put your hand up to go to the toilet, and it's just like you went through the motions as we all have to, don't we?
Yeah.
Um, and I suppose for me, the whole getting up, going to school, learning stuff, and integrating with lots of people, pushed into integrating with people we're not necessarily compatible with. So when I was 14, um, my mum got cancer, and at that point, it spun me out a bit, as it would, any child. I didn't really know the consequences of it. I just knew it was bad, and everybody was fussing around my mum.
Mm.
But that was the point where I just said, I don't want to go to school anymore. So I just decided at 14 that I'm leaving school. So I did. It was probably a little bit harder these days, but I wasn't chased down the street by any truant officers or anything like that. But I think my mum got a few visits. Where's Stu? But I was nowhere to be seen because I was working. I got a job filling up cars in a petrol station for a little bit of money. Well, quite a lot of money for someone who was at school, to be fair. So that was, I suppose, the first point in my life where I actively made a decision to like lead my own life.
Mm.
And from that point on, 16, my mum then passed uh,
Mm.
with a fight of cancer, and my dad, he liked his booze. He was a little bit. He was a little bit hard work. He sort of ruled with a loving iron rod. So I left home when I was 16, and moved off to Wales. Got what little money I could, and off I went. And I suppose I struggled and strained, and got by for a year or so, then come back to London.
Where
But
did you go to, if you don't mind me saying? So you
sure,
left home at
I ended up,
16. Where did you
yeah.
go?
Well, my brother was living in North Wales, so I had a
Okay.
venue.
Mm.
Um, I just had to get some money together, which I managed to by sort of renting a few things and loving them out a little bit, you know. And yeah, it was desperate times for me, you know.
Yeah.
But when I landed back in London, I was just bouncing around like a cork in a bucket of water, really, not really having anywhere to go, what to do. And I come back and went to college. You know, I was staying around a friend's house, so sort of sofa serving for a while. And I
Mm.
went to college and learned electronic systems, which gave me a little bit of focus what to do with my life. Because
What made you choose that then?
I was always good at repairing things. You know,
Okay.
I had motorbikes when I was, you know, growing up,
Mm.
and I was just good at fixing electrical things, and it just seemed the right thing to do. And so
Yeah.
I learned electronics control
Yeah.
systems,
Yeah.
which then sort of, you know, moved me on to my working life.
Mm.
But you know, I was still rebelling. I've grown my hair long. I had long locks, and you know, and burning the candle from both ends, if you like,
Yeah.
and just basically something inside me wasn't right, because I ended up moving to a squat for a short time where they was building the M11 link road, and it
Mm.
was just inside. It stopped building roads. Something inside me was shouting like something isn't right with this whole thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
So half of me was kind of like, what's going on? You know, this world's mad. And the other half
Mm-hmm.
of me is like saying, well, you need to comply because you need to get a job and you need to, you know, move on with your life.
Mm.
So I
What
was
was
kind
it?
of,
Sorry to interrupt you. What was it about the building roads and what you were seeing going on in the world? What was jarring with you? What was it that didn't feel right?
well, it's going back to my school days, I suppose, and like with my dad rolling with his loving iron rod.
Mm.
It, it didn't feel right. You know, everything was controlled. Everything was like, you must do, you have to do, you got to do this, you know.
Mm.
And then the building roads, whether we liked it or not, you know, there was a lovely in Leytonstone in London. There was a lovely community, and no, let's knock all the houses down and let's build roads, and you know, we're not going to ask anybody, compulsory purchase. So all these things that inside me bounce around, thinking this is just nuts. None of it feels right.
Mm.
But as I say,
Mm.
ultimately, I still had to step forward and join in, you know, with
Mm.
society and get me a job. But I did get a job in the end with
Yeah.
a place, you know, so I was earning okay money.
And
Um,
what about losing your mum at that really young age? Do you remember whether you spent any time grieving, or maybe like a lot of people who feel they just need to get on, did you sort of brush it aside a little bit and just carry
no,
on with
no,
life as best you could?
I was more confused than anything else. I think, you know, it's because,
Mm.
you know, 14 to 16, I just seen my mum deteriorate,
Mm.
and then I left home for a short period of time. When my mum was ill, um, and maybe it was escapism. I suppose maybe I don't know, but it was hard. I was upset when she died. Of course, I was. You know, it's a
Mm.
big chunk of your support is gone.
Mm.
You know, when you look around for a hug and your dad's there, like wobbling about after he's come back from the pub, like it's not quite the same. So a little bit lost and confused, but you have to get
Yeah,
on with it. You know, you
yeah,
have to. You've got to keep stepping forward. That's when I moved out to Wales. It's probably a good thing for me to get right out of the situation. You know,
yeah. And
yeah.
your brothers, so where are you in the sort of order of things with your brothers? You've got
I've
how
got
many, did you say?
I've got four brothers now.
Okay,
I've got two older brothers and one younger.
okay.
We'll just around the UK. We
Mm.
just exploded out of London, and I've got no contacts from London now, actually, strangely.
And
Yeah.
did you have the support? Did you feel quite close to your brothers, particularly
My
around?
eldest brother, yeah,
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, we sort of like more similar than the others to a
Mm.
degree at the time.
Mm.
But again, he was the most stable. You know, he had a you know a house he was buying, and you know he had a little family, and it was just
Mm.
he reached out and you know said,
Mm.
come here, Stu. So I did. You know, I went
Yeah.
up to North Wales, and it was okay. It was good.
Yeah.
An
Okay.
escape.
Yeah. So you're back in London and you're obviously quite motivated. You weren't just bumming around. You got yourself a job. I don't know, you went to college first. You went to college.
I went to college, yeah, for a time while I was learning electronics or washing up in a Greek hotel restauranty place, and it was not much fun, to be honest with you. It's quite boring, but you know, you get your head down and just crack on with it. So, and from there, I got a job, say, doing control systems in Essex. Well, I met my partner,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and from there on, it just carried on from there. Really, they went bust, and then I sort of moved on to another job, repairing equipment in the construction industry. Had lots of motorbikes, lots of fun, lots of partying, and
Yeah.
just moved on with life. You know,
Yeah.
it, yeah, I had fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of fun. But moving forward, slightly, then we had a first child in '95,
Mm-hmm.
and before he was two, we moved to Somerset just to get out of
Okay.
London. You know, it wasn't vibrant anymore. The old, for me, the old East End wasn't like the East End anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The demographic had changed completely where I was growing up. So we decided let's just make a fresh start. So we did. We moved to Somerset.
Mm.
Moved to Somerset. I got jobs in construction industry, repairing some machines. Had two more kids there,
Mm.
and then just ticked over for a while, really. You know,
Mm.
just sort of worked family life and just moved forward like society would you expect you to do, and paid my bills, and you know, still had fun along the way. But yeah, so
Yeah.
and that continued until I I ended up working for a corporate. I got a job repairing machines in a corporate,
Mm.
and basically walked the corporate ladder. I just
Mm.
ended up going up and up and up, and I had starting off as area supervisor, area manager, off the tools, national engineering manager, and then I was aiming for, I wasn't aiming, but I was aimed because in corporations they tend to give you a job as opposed to you get them, you know, so apply for
Yeah.
them. And
Yeah.
I was aiming for a multi-million pound portfolio, looking after the whole head of department, right, the whole department, which is the machinery repairs.
Mm.
And
Wow. Yeah.
stress. Oh, it was stress. That
Mm.
so didn't resonate with me.
Mm.
You know, I would be driving across the country for when you sort of climb the corporate ladder, most of the working life is just meetings all the time, you know,
Yeah.
actions
Yeah.
meetings, actions meetings, and it's tedious. No job
Yeah.
satisfaction, you know, not like repairing a machine. Everyone gives you a high five and thanks, Stu, on you go. Like
Yeah.
it was not like that. It was just like, you know, reduce the budgets. You know, here's this and
Yeah.
management skills and what you're doing about it. And it was like,
Mm.
oh, and I was in the end, I was driving around the UK just crying all the time. I was
Mm.
like literally crying, and I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And you know, long story short, I went to the doctors and says I'm uncontrollably crying here, and they did the usual test and said you're really stressed. You know, this is not good for you.
Mm.
So I sort of aimed to sort of wriggle out of that. Decided not to take the promotion,
Mm-hmm.
and got a job with a company in Somerset, which was doing similar repairs on machinery,
Mm.
and met a couple of guys there, and we all decided like we're running this show. You know, I was there for a year, and I
Mm.
ended up being general manager. Went there as a salesman actually, and I'm not a very good salesman, so he's, you know, but he says like you're management material, like so he put me in a management job, which is nice. And we the three of us decided like this, let's give it a go. Let's try and start our own business. So did we
And
started a
that was
business.
doing what?
That was finding solutions for engineering projects. So if somebody, for example, had a production line where they wanted to have 10% more cheeses going through, but the
Mm.
machine that they had wasn't capable, then we would find the teams, because we was well connected within the industry, and we would
Mm.
get teams around the table and find a solution for them, and then get it manufactured,
Mm.
machined, or whichever it needed, and then offer it back to them. You know, give them a
Mm.
solution, and if they wanted it, then they go for it. And we was
Mhm.
pretty good at it, to be fair. You know,
Mm. Mm.
said the first month we worked from a kitchen table around one of the guys' houses, and yeah, we turned £750, and he was like, "What have we done?" Like, you know. But you know, by the end of the first year, we was really successful. We turned 750,000. The next year was 1.5 million. Third year was
Wow.
3 million, and it was just going up and up and up. And it was just like, wow, we was just like living the dream. And you know,
Yeah.
contracts and license to build machines, from our research and development, and
Right.
yeah, it was multi millions of pounds was on the table for the next trading year. It was like really exciting times, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
big.
exciting. You're
Oh,
enjoying it.
it was,
Yeah.
I was enjoying it. But my role, the two other guys were like the salesmen, but my role was like the managing director. So I kind of looked after the business side of it. So I would make sure that the policies and procedures were aligned to some of our big clients. You know,
Mm.
we've done some work for the Ministry of Defence, Rolls-Royce, Sellafield, you know, Tata, British Steel,
Mhm.
and several others. So we was playing around with the big boys, which was
Mm.
exciting for us because like we was
Yeah.
just three like school kids, street
Yeah.
kids, you
Yeah.
know, just having fun with it, but you know, doing it properly. But I found that because we had to align the company to our clients, you
Mm.
know, I had like our company, but then I had little companies within to make sure they aligned with their policies and procedures because that's what they expected.
Okay.
That's stressful. You know, so it was really
Yeah.
stressful. ISOs and policies and making sure everything aligns. And I was sometimes 16-hour days working till early hours of the morning, getting audited on the fly.
Mm.
It was stressful. It really was. On the outside, it looked great, and we won an award for best up and coming company in the Southwest. It was really good times, you know. On
Mm.
that face of it, but other times it was like
Mm.
it
And you
was.
still had a young family and all the pressures that brings.
Yeah. Yes, my eldest had gone through university at the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
A bit
daughter
older.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and son. He was they're still at home.
Mm. I mean,
But
were you
then,
having any chance to spend time with the family? It sounds like you're working
well,
very hard and didn't have a lot of
yeah. Well,
spare time.
at that time, just before I started the company, the corporate took its toll on my relationship.
Mm.
And it ended up we sort of parted, see, at
Okay.
that point. So that was kind of hard because when you're in that position,
Mm.
you choose a road,
Yeah.
and you think, this is the road I want to do. This is the road I need to succeed in because this is how we're programmed to go.
Mm. Yeah.
But and it kind of blinkers you a little bit, and the pressures I was under put pressure on the family, and
Yeah.
you end up like sort of going on different paths, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I found myself alone and
Mm.
starting a business,
Hmm.
and so that that was really stressful. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
going back to that and just bringing it all back now, like you know,
Mm.
it was hard times. So as I say, you know, on the face of it, it was like, yay, high fives and cigars, and look at this contract, and yay, look at our customer list, blah blah blah. But on the inside, you know, you're melting and you're trying to grab and hold on
Mm.
to something, and
Mm.
it was a difficult thing to do, to be honest with you. And I
Mm.
think it
Mm.
took its toll in the end. It really did. It really did.
Yes. Tell us about that. How did
Well,
it impact you ultimately?
and well, I suppose the business was, I say, is running into its fourth year, and uh, we uh we had so much on the table at the time, you know, and I was really pushed. And I was at work one day, and me being me, the van, one of the vans was kind of grubby, and I said to the driver, it needs to be clean, needs to be clean, needs to be cleaned, um, and it didn't get cleaned. So I went out for a cigarette. We had a double unit. Went outside, was having a cigarette, and I was washing the van.
Mm.
And I thought I'll do half of it now, and I'll do the other half, and I'll have another cigarette just to make the vans look nice and sparkly. Because one of the things is like we need to look good out there, you know. That was a
Yeah.
dingo.
Yeah.
And so I'm washing the van and washed half the van. I went to turn the tap off, and I turned it up with my left hand. And I was just like, well, that was silly. So, and I went in to turn it off again, and I turned it up again with my left hand. And I was just like, oh, what's wrong with you? So I turned it down with my right hand, to tap for the hose. And then as I walked round, my foot went weird and my leg went weird. And I was just like, oh, this is strange. And my arm dropped, and there was a seat there. Luckily, I sat in a seat,
Mm.
face dropped. And then
Right.
that was it. My life changed from there, to be honest with you, at that
Yeah.
point, you know, and straight away I knew I was having a stroke. And it was a
Mm.
biggie because, you know, I was trying to shout for help, and I was like, "Ah, ah," and just
Mm.
like noise was coming out. And it's like, what's going on?
Oh.
Yeah. And
Awful.
yeah, that
Yeah.
that story ended obviously with me getting rushed to hospital quite quickly, to be fair.
Mm,
And I suppose within well, two hours, I was in intensive care, and I was
mm,
just like, oh, what's going on here? It's just
mm,
like this is another world.
mm,
And I stayed there for, I'm not too sure how long I stayed there, if I'm honest. My memory is a little bit hazy with that.
mm.
5 days maybe, and a
Okay.
week
A
to
pretty
two in hospital.
serious stroke.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it
Yeah.
was a proper a game changer for me.
Mm.
But
Had you
me,
been paying much attention to your health before that?
yes and no.
Yeah.
As I say, like in my early years, I was really good at sports, and I continued
Mm.
that through. I used to play
Okay.
five-a-side football, and I'd done a lot of self-defense, played a lot of
Mm.
squash. That
Mm.
sounds really good. My diet
Yeah.
was terrible,
Was it?
and yeah, and I burnt the candle at both ends. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did like to have a bit of a party. So,
Mm.
yeah, I wasn't looking after myself at all, and psychologically or spiritually, on all levels, I wasn't really looking after myself. I was just like, oh no, I'm going to go and get this. I'm going to go and do this, and that's just how I live my life. And
Mm.
that works up to a certain point, and
Yeah.
then things start
Yeah.
to either fall apart or they just break. And I
Yes.
broke.
You
It
did.
was
Yeah.
it was an instant breakage, which was yeah, a bit
So
harrowing
you
for
were in
me.
hospital for a few days, and then what about the rehabilitation? What did you need? What support did you need for that?
Well, at the time, me and my partner, we'd got back together at the
Mhm.
time, and we'd moved from Shepton. Well, I'd moved initially to Dorset, Bridport,
Okay.
and then the family come over. So I had my family around me there,
Mhm.
which did help. Uh,
Yeah.
um, and I had rehabilitation at home most of the time.
Mm.
Um, as soon as I started to move my fingers, and then the physios were all over me, like, "Yeah, you can move!" Like, that was the indication, because I was completely paralyzed. I had
Oh,
no movement down my left hand side, zero.
right.
Um,
Okay.
I, I lost the ability to feel temperature change. My anxieties were through the roof. But I only realised that when I started to actually venture outside it, if I'm honest.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I sat on a sofa, just wobbling this side and coping with this side with drinking and eating with one hand and things.
Yeah.
I'm watching Gilmore Girls because my daughter loved it and I couldn't get away from it. So I watched all the series. I did come to like it.
And what's
Yeah.
happening to the business, your business during this time?
Well, the business was well, the business was ticking over, and I was getting divvies out of the business as an income,
Mm.
and that was moving okay. That was going okay, and my stroke was at the back end September 2018.
Hmm.
So the business was being looked after by the other guys,
Yeah. Yeah.
and as I moved around into January, on my birthday, a couple of people there, and I maybe I should have done, but I had a couple of drams. I had one for the road, and I didn't feel very well. I thought, oh, I've drunk too much, and I'm not used to
But this
this.
is only a few months
This
after
is
you.
literally like the September after the end, sorry, the January after the September I had the stroke.
And your rehabilitation's been going on, and
Yeah,
you're.
it's going on.
Yeah.
I can kind of walk, kind of
Okay.
like badly, and I think I could just about get a tin out of the cupboard above my head, and that was a success. And these little milestones that I was
Yeah.
achieving. So I was getting
Okay.
there. I was getting there.
Yeah.
So my vision was to get back to work. I
Okay.
did say to the guys, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but they insisted, no, get better and come back because we're a team,
Yeah.
which was nice.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, so on my birthday, I I I went I went to the I actually went to the toilet to make myself sick because I thought I'd drunk too much. I was trying
Yeah.
to like heal myself, and I ended up coming to on in between the skirting and the wardrobe with my head down there.
Mm.
And yeah, I was just in so much pain across my chest. You know,
Mm.
previous to that, I just thought I had an indigestion for a couple of days. But then I just kept blacking out, and I remember saying, "I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble." Next thing I remember was a guy who was standing over me with these things all over me, saying, "You're having a huge heart attack, Stu."
This was the
Um,
ambulance guy, I'm guessing.
the ambulance guy, yeah, the paramedics when they turned up and say, "I don't know much," and then I remember vaguely going down the stairs, and then I come to in the operating theatre. I remember looking up, and there was a light above my head. And this woman leant over and says, "You're okay, Stu, you're doing fine." And she was leaning on me, like only softly. And I went, "I can feel something in my chest." And then I heard this voice going, "Don't worry, don't worry." He goes, "10 minutes." And I was like, I can hear voices. And it's like, is this God? What's going on? And then I blacked out again. It's just like, wow. And and then when I come to, I see you again. And I
Right.
was, oh, here we go again. So yeah, I basically just stopped working, completely stopped working. I see a video afterwards when the consultants come around, and my heart was just fibbing. It was just vibrating.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they put a couple of stents in, and then two-thirds of my heart was operating okay, with one-third of my heart wasn't. That was confirmed about a year later when I had it all over
Right.
checked. So yeah, I suppose it was another couple of weeks, and then I was
In
back home again
hospital.
in hospital, and then I was
Yeah.
back home again, and I was
Right.
just like, I'm ruined. I just whatever I'm doing in my life just isn't working.
So I was going to say, what was going through your mind? Was it like, okay, now I've had 2 warnings, something needs to change? Were you thinking like that,
No,
or no?
no.
How were you thinking?
I really wasn't in a position to sort of think that far forward, because
Okay.
I was when I had a stroke, it's really confusing.
Mm.
Because you're still, I was still compass mentis, and I was still able to communicate, and I knew what was going on, but I just couldn't operate physically half my body,
Yeah.
and things were going on in my head. I couldn't quite work out, what's going on. But when my heart went, I remember at one point just slaving to the situation. It's just
Mm.
like, this is happening now. I can really feel the life force coming out of me. I literally feel it coming out. And that was it. You just lay back and let it happen. And at that point, I suppose when I was on the floor, is that I felt peace. I wasn't. It wasn't in panic. Once I realised
Okay.
what was going on with me, I just thought, well, this is it then.
So
And it
you
was.
did say you were in quite a lot of pain at that point
I,
when you were lying there.
I was when it was happening, but when I come to
Mm.
on the floor, and I was in pain, and then I realised it was a big heart attack, an issue with the heart. I didn't know what was going on, and then I
Mm.
just slaved it. So when I come to in down the stairs, it was just like, okay, this is really happening now.
Mm.
It's a strange. I can't quite explain how you'd give up on life. I wasn't giving up on life, but I just slaved to the situation. I just laid back and just said, whatever God will is
Just
it.
surrendered basically to what
Yeah, it was, but yeah, but
happened.
that was the difference between the stroke. It was confusing.
Mm.
But the heart failure was, it was a different feeling completely, totally
Okay.
different. Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it was on my birthday, which of all days for it to happen, but it doesn't happen
Yeah.
very often, I suppose.
Yeah. So, okay. So then you have the op, you stay in hospital a couple of weeks, you come home, and then how do you rebuild things after that?
Well, it's at that point. At that point when I realised that I wasn't going to go back to work. That was it. I couldn't. I had to change something, and I contacted the guys and said, "This is it. I'm not coming back now." And I
Mm.
made my mind up. But at the same time, my divvies had stopped,
Your dividends.
my
Yeah.
dividends to keep me going.
Okay.
So I contacted the bank, and I was blocked from the bank, and I managed to get back into the bank, but then I couldn't get hold of one of the guys who was heading up the company, and eventually got into the bank and just see that there was just over and over and over and over again there's withdrawals, um, personal withdrawals to the one guy who's looking after the company. And I just think, he just, for whatever reason, had lost his focus and decided that he's going to do whatever he done, and flawed the company basically.
And this was while you were recovering from your stroke, was it? that all this was going on,
It's
or had it been
well,
going on longer?
it was when I had my stroke, and then it just
Okay.
escalated around, past when I
Right.
had my heart attack, and it continued from there.
So he was
So
taking money.
yeah,
You didn't realize. You go in to speak to the bank, and there's no
oh,
money.
it's over the phone. I couldn't
Right.
actually
Okay.
to the bank, but yeah, I could have gone to the bank, I suppose, but no. Yeah,
There was no money.
no. So the suppliers didn't get paid, so we couldn't continue with what we were doing for new
Right.
customers and massive potentials. Huge. We was doing
Mm,
a lot of work for the nuclear industry,
mm,
and that would have just exploded. It would have made us huge.
mm,
But hindsight's a wonderful thing.
mm,
But so in short, I just said, well, okay, then that's it. I shut the company, and it went into liquidation and dissolved. But bearing in mind that while all this is happening, I'm now beginning to get outside because my motor skills are coming back online. And as I'm going outside, my anxieties are going through the roof, absolutely through the roof. I had no idea what was going on. I couldn't cope with the outside world.
Why was that, do you think?
Well, it was really apparent as when I went to the supermarkets,
Mm,
that I would go into the supermarkets and I would just stop. I would just stop and I'll be like, oh, I can't cope. And the noises and the sounds and the lights and everything around me, I just couldn't cope with it. And
mm,
I had a lot of therapists try and get me into the supermarkets, to sort of like, obviously to get me better, but they couldn't quite work out why I was to put my brakes on as soon as I got near the door. And every time I went
mm,
inside, they was giving me coping mechanisms like feeling things or maybe just speak or read something, but nothing was really working.
mm,
And I suppose it was, about 6, maybe 4 weeks after going through this process, is that I was sitting at home, and I was looking at, we got some birds in cages, and I was looking at these birds, and I just got overwhelmed with sadness.
mm,
And I was just tuning into them, and I could just feel that as much as they're in the bird cage and they're fed and that, they wasn't flourishing, they weren't resonating properly. And
mhm.
it tore me apart, and I really couldn't cope.
These
And
were birds in your own home, were they?
yes,
So
yes, they
you've
were.
had them in cages for quite a long time, but
Correct.
suddenly you saw it in a different way.
I see it definitely, yeah. Yeah, I
Mm,
definitely did, and I felt something. Something really hit me, and it
mm,
was just sadness. It was just like it was real sadness that something was in unnatural environment. So
mm,
I broke down. I went outside, and outside my house there was a little fence with a brook, and there was trees outside.
mm,
And I leant on the fence, just crying, 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 crying. And some of my neighbours come to see how I was. And I'm talking about neighbours. I'm talking there was two birds, two families of birds. They both coming to the tree in front of me.
oh, wow.
And I
Right.
was just like, wow, look at that. And I'm all right, I'm all right. And then I soothed myself. I was fine. And then going back inside, I could feel the tension, but it was like there's something here because everybody. I was told this by a couple of therapists. Everybody has like a near-death experience or gravely ill. Nearly all of them want to get out into nature. So we naturally want to go out to nature to heal.
Mm,
That's what we do, because in nature is where natural resonance is. So this is where we get healing energy from.
mm, mm.
As I say, from that point when I see the birds, it was like, wow, I really do feel that's a thing now. My anxiety. Sorry, I've got the hounds of the Baskervilles outside.
That's okay. We can't really hear them. That's
You can't.
true.
It's really noisy here. And
Yeah.
excuse me.
No
They
problem.
so I lost my
Well, you were talking about the birds, and I was just going to ask you. So it felt you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but suddenly, because you even as a child, when you were talking about the roads being built and you know, in a nice part of London that was, you felt was being suddenly concreted over, and that was upsetting to you. You know, even at that young age, you were sensitive to the environment being altered and taken from its sort of natural state. And then fast forward, it seems like the situation with the birds sort of really hit home at a point where you were going through a big shift anyway, that suddenly those birds in cages felt very wrong. And then you go outside and you see them in their natural environment. And that really spoke to you on a deep level by the sounds of it. Again, coming back to the environment and, you know, nature being taken away and creatures being taken out of their natural environment, that really struck a chord. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. And that was a trigger point for me when going into a unnatural environment like a supermarket, that nothing in there is in its natural form. Nothing. Yeah, the closest thing to its natural form is the people there. But even then, you can argue they're not in their natural place. So nothing is resonating. And I was like, I kind of understand where my anxieties are coming from. It's like I'm tuning in to the unnatural resonance, something which isn't naturally resonating because it's been taken out of its place, either out of its form, in as much as plastic, wood, metal, foods, even you know, in supermarkets are not resonating naturally. And when I sort of equate that to looking at the birds, I was like, everything just fell into place. I was like, get it now. And it literally cured my anxieties. That's my coping mechanism. I still get anxieties now, but as soon as I get anxieties, I just go, where am I? What's my surroundings? And 100% of the time is because I'm not in a place of natural resonance. And it just affects me. And that was, I suppose, a start of a journey of really tapping into nature resonances for me. So, just a little while after then, the company had gone, you know, so I was off and running in my new life, if you like. You know, it is which some people said to me, like, you know, do you want us to go and sort out the guy who sort of like to sort of made the business? I said, no. I said, no, not at all. I said, he's literally saved me. He's sprungboard me out, you know, out of the system. And I suppose when I realized that, when I was really free of the system, is we had a lot of investment because we were doing so well, and a lot of it is personally liable for. And the guys who were personally liable, you have meetings with them and saying, like, what assets have you got? And I'd sold my house, you know, and my brain wasn't working on, you know, I had no idea what was going on. And he's just saying, what money have you got? And I was just like, you know, what meat do you want of the bones? There's not much left, you know. I haven't got any money. I haven't got anything. And it was just like, and at that point, I was just like, oh my God, I'm free. I'm literally free. I've got no hang-ups. I've got no mortgage. I've got, you know, I've got nothing to lose. And that just, wow. And it lifted me so much, you know. So all these things, like moving away from the control system and understanding natural resonances and how they feel when they're out of resonance, and all these things are happening at the same time. And as I was just like tapping into, like, what did I feel when I had these near-death experiences? And I was just like, I kind of understand consciousness and how that feels, you know, within. And the clarity of the system that we led to believe is normal. Everything was just boom, boom, and it was going on, and it still is today, if I'm honest, you know. And yeah, that was a start of a completely different stew from there on in.
Yeah. And so the business being destroyed, you honestly felt like it had done you a favor, did you? Did it take a while to come to that, or did you immediately feel, oh, the relief that it's gone? Was there any anger? Was there any disappointment, frustration?
Well, naturally, because when you work so hard to build something up to a certain place, and then somebody starts, like, and it starts pulling apart, and you know, you're going to get annoyance because it's something that you spent your time on. And you know, when you think that someone isn't thinking of other people, they're just thinking of oneself
Yeah.
in the whole thing, then you know that selfishness is going to hit you because you're the recipient of someone else's selfishness. You're going to have a
Well,
reaction to that
they,
naturally.
he betrayed you, really, didn't he?
Um,
Um,
I I don't see it as betrayal because we're all on a journey and the universe
mm,
lines things up for you. And when, you know,
mhm.
hindsight, you just think, no, was the perfect thing to happen to me
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
So I can only thank the situation. I can't do anything else. Why look at the negatives on it when it's
Yeah.
literally there's more positives come out of a situation which looks bad on the outside than anything else.
Mm,
You
mm,
know,
mm,
it really is.
mm,
Thank you.
mm,
I could say to him, thank you very
mm,
much.
Oh,
You know,
mm. So, okay, something profound was happening then.
it
It
was.
sort of sounds like when you went through those near-death experiences, and you were just talking a bit about it there, that something fundamental shifted in the way you see the world, and suddenly, like you were saying, you sort of realize what an artificial existence many of us live without realizing, and the sort of control system that keeps us in that place. Do you want to say a bit
Absolutely.
more about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's. I was always, as I said before, I always knew something wasn't right. But this was just, it was almost like somebody just got a squeegee and just went over all the blurriness, and everything was just like, right, I get it now. I get
Yeah.
it all. I understand, you know, different levels of consciousness. In my awareness, I was understanding different levels on where consciousness becomes a singularity. You know, so when you sort of
Mhm.
look at that and then look where we're at in duality or
Mhm.
polarity. All these things, I said, "Oh, why are these things, or why am I getting this understanding? I don't get it. I don't understand it, but I'm going to roll with it, you know."
Mhm.
And my deeper, I suppose, my deeper understanding of it all was to put not to put it's difficult to put a picture on it, but I just felt a connection of consciousness. You know, when I had my heart failure and when I was convalescing through that, I just felt a conscious connection with things deeper than
Mm.
I've ever felt before. And it's
Mm.
like I was my size energy consciousness, and I was and they got something the size of the planet, something the size of the cosmos, something the size of an atom. But in between that, there's just a connection between us all, you know,
Mhm.
and that
Mhm.
was profound for me. You know,
Mm.
we are one. You know,
Mm.
that was it. We are one. So whatever someone does to me does to oneself
Mhm.
because we are all one. And
Mhm.
that's been a good protection for me, you know.
Mm.
Certainly with because I feel like when you're kind of going into a deeper understanding, it kind of leaves doors open a little bit, you know.
Mm.
And so for my protection, it was just that whatever one does to me, you do to oneself
Mm.
because we are all one, and that was so profound. And
Mm.
even to this day, it's there's
I
I
was,
can't
I
change that.
was, yeah, I was going to say, because that sounds like what some people would call an enlightenment experience, an awakening experience. Has that feeling remained with you? Has it changed at all? Has it grown? Or have you at times sort of slipped back into the old way of thinking? Or have you just been on that trajectory now, and you feel that connection all the time?
No, I feel that connection all the time.
Mm.
Absolutely all the time. I'm still the competitive Stu because I still like, you know, the sporty person in me, you know,
Yeah.
and the traits that I grew up with are still within.
Mm.
But no, I still go with them, and they get deeper and deeper. You know,
Mm.
for example, I was out on Dartmoor, I was walking around there. I was trying to find a stone circle, you know, constantly trying to find enlightenment. I still am today, always trying to find something more, a deeper connection. You know, I want more information from source. You know, I think a lot of people are now. You know, we kind of got a
Mm.
deeper understanding. But I was walking through some woods looking for a stone circle on Dartmoor, and I come over with this wave of a dread of fear,
Mm.
and I was on my own. I was like, I didn't know I was scared of being on my own in the forest, but you know, because I grew up near Epping Forest, so I was kind of used to it, and I did have a real inner fear.
Mm.
And I pushed on, as Sue does, and as I was walking through a track and into the next opening, the all the trees had started to be cut down
Right.
and used for timber,
Right.
I'm guessing. And
Mm.
I was like, that's what I can feel. That's
Mm.
what I can feel, and it's resonating through the forest. And I was like,
Mm.
wow, you know.
Mm.
So, and at that point, I was saying, right now, I'm beginning to get a handle on, you know, the emotions, not just from with how we interact with each other, but everything, you know.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it was everywhere around the forest.
Yeah.
It was profound for me, really, really
And
profound.
to be that emotionally sensitive and sensitive to how plants, animals are feeling, and you know, being in the world. I mean, how easy is that to live your life when you are tuning in and having that sensitivity? I mean, you mentioned about the supermarket. Can you go into a supermarket now? Do you still feel?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can, because I've got a coping mechanism, you know, because
Mm.
I know that, you know, the anxieties that I'm going to come across are because of, and it's just when you have an awareness, it's when you don't understand why you're
Right.
feeling a certain way, why you've got this emotion inside. Because a lot of people will get very emotional and they have
Mm.
no, you know, no base for it, or there is a base for it, but they don't know where the base for it has come from. And so that's
Mm.
really confusing, and it upsets people, and it's very hard to get over, you know. And this is when you start looking for outside help, you know, go to doctors
Yeah.
or healer, or, just get outsource someone else to come and fix you. But for me, I've got a handle on that now, and
Mm.
the resonance, you know, of plants and trees and nature
Mm.
was huge for me. Because of my injuries, I was given a lot of pills to take,
Mhm.
11
Yeah.
pills a day,
Right.
and yeah, there's loads. And naturally, you want to get off them. You know, after a little while, I had to go back for full checks. You know, I
Mm.
had a consultant arguing about I need to thin the blood because of his heart, and then the one said he needs to thicken it because I had a bleed in the brain, and the consultants are arguing and they're just throwing pills at me, and and it's
Mm.
just like, well, I just feel like I'm in the middle of a consultant's fight here. But I just done what they said because they saved my life.
Yes.
You've got
Yes.
to hand it to the health system.
Mm.
They saved my life. And
Mm.
so I went to the doctors for results of some bloods I'd taken, and he said, how you feeling? And I was like, I feel pretty bad, to be honest with you, doc.
Mm.
I have some citalopram, and I was just like, by the way, your cholesterol's a bit high, and so we're going to try and give you another pill on top of the pills I'm already getting to try and bring it down. And I was like, okay. And at this point, I'm kind of a low ebb. My joints are not working properly, and I've got psoriasis, I've got brain fog, and I'm just feeling really down. And I'm just like, wow. I just thought,
Where are we in the story here? Just to so this was obviously post the stroke and heart attack. You're
yes.
rebuilding your life. You're sort of realizing your new state of being, your sensitivities. Um, but you're feeling quite down at this point, and you're still dealing with some health issues, like you're telling us, the psoriasis and a few other things. So you're not feeling amazing at this point. Is that right? You go and
Yeah,
see the
that's
doctor.
definitely. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
feeling pretty low. On top of everything what's happened, I've got the physical issues.
Mm.
I've also got these amazing awareness, happenings around me.
Mm.
I've obviously got the reverb from the business, and so there's
Mm.
lots of things which are happening. And I suppose this is about 8 months after, maybe a year,
Okay. Okay.
after my injuries.
Yeah.
So anyway, I decided to change something in me. So I basically I went to the internet, Google, as we all do, and looked at the compounds in the drugs that give me to lower my cholesterol. And to
Okay.
lower cholesterol, it was like remove certain things out of your diet.
Mm.
At the time, it was a lot of dairy products, obviously reduce smoking and alcohol and bits and bobs.
Mm.
So I just decided just to wipe um, dairy off my menu, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go back in 2 months to have another cholesterol check. And when I
Okay.
had a less cholesterol check, it was 9 point something. I don't know what they measure, but apparently it's really high. And it gone down
Mm.
to 7 point something or other in the high sevens.
And that
And
was
it's
just eliminating dairy, was it? Nothing else.
it was, yeah, because he
Yeah.
said, oh, so you are so you're still taking all the pills? And I was like, yeah. And he
And
said, well,
were
it's
you? You didn't take the
not, I
cholesterol pill,
didn't take that pill, not the
right?
pill they gave me, but I changed my diet and I'd reduced my cholesterol by nearly 2 points.
Okay.
Of course, at that point, there's light bulbs going off. It's like,
Mm.
wow, okay, hang on, whoa, whoa, whoa. So if I can do that, changing my diet with one pill, let's have a look at all the other pills.
Yeah.
So I just basically started looking at all the compounds that the
So
pills are
this
offering.
engineering mind of yours starts whirring.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I suppose luckily I can read with the PubMed research papers and things, and I kind of understand them a little bit. So
Hmm.
I was just looking at the compounds of what certain pills were offering, where that
Mhm.
compound was in nature, and seeing what
Okay.
plant that was. And basically, the conclusion was very, very quick. Was change your diet. Change your diet. So, for example, one of the pills was reducing the blood pressure through the heart
Okay.
and the kidneys.
Yeah.
So how do I lower blood pressure naturally? Well, straight away, drink more water and
Mm.
de-stress. So I drank more fluids and started meditating.
Mm.
Another pill was just soften because my hardening of my arteries, just soften
Hmm.
the arteries, stop them blocking.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to take salt off the menu. And then that basically got rid of all processed foods because I
Mm.
wasn't eating very healthy at this point, you see.
Okay.
So bit by bit, I just started to take all the pills off by changing my diet, and I've done it relentlessly. I ended up on a vegan diet, but it wasn't a
Mm.
vegan diet where they have all the bacon flavored plant based whatever it is. It was just everything in its whole food, grains, nuts, fruit,
Okay.
vegetables.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after
And how
about
were you
8 months,
feeling on
sorry.
that? How were
I
you
was a
feeling?
feeling.
Yeah.
I was feeling okay. To be
Mm.
fair, I wasn't doing anything strenuous, so I can't say that it was giving me a massive amount of energy because I wasn't expending any energy. So I don't know if it was, if that was having an effect, but I felt okay. I did feel
Mm.
okay.
Mm.
And then I had to go to an all over body thing with MRIs, brain and heart, and the consultant on the results said to me, "This is the best your cardio's been working since you've had your injuries." And I hadn't been taking any pharmaceutical pills for must be near on 8 9 months at the time,
Really?
just
So
by
you'd cut
changing my
them all out. All those 11 pills have gone.
everything
Right.
and change my diet and just to have confirmation by the medical sciences to
Hmm.
say this is the best you've been.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just I was just like, wow, well there's your answer then, guys. So
Amazing.
it blew me away. So that was another thing I was going down. So when I was eating whole foods and I decided to go into organic because I was trying to eliminate all the naughties out of my diet. Because when you're
Mm.
eating food and vegetables and stuff, everything's processed and sprayed, and we know this.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
But I looked at organic, but
Mm.
something inside me just I didn't feel right. The organic. So I looked into
Okay.
the organic industry and how they produce organic produce. So what I found out, and I'm not going to say this is right or wrong by any means, but what I found out was a lot of the products which are sprayed and used as fertilizers and composts in the organic industry comes from biosludge, which comes from us, which goes into the sewers,
Biosludge is
sewage sludge.
sewage sludge. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and but in that itself, there's residual pharmaceutical drugs, like
Yeah.
and recreational drugs,
Yeah.
and that can't be processed by eliminating it from source or in the ground. Once it goes in the ground, it stays in the ground. So I was like,
Mm.
well, that doesn't resonate with me at all. And
Mm.
because I'm still going through the process of my diet, you see,
Mm.
and someone said to me, there's a guy called Shinya who's practicing Shumei natural agriculture. And I was like, right. He goes, basically, they just let nature grow the food and we don't intervene any which way.
Shume.
Shume natural agriculture, yeah.
How do
Shumei.
you spell that? Sorry. Yeah.
Shumei.
Okay. So
Shumei
people.
natural agriculture.
Mm.
And so I went to a few of these presentations and got on well with Shinya, and just started practicing that. And it changed my view on food as we know it, even organic food.
So
You know,
tell me, how does that system work? What's the difference with that and regular organic farming?
well, organic farming, you can still have influences on putting fertilizers, composts, you know, to give it nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
And what the idea is with shumate is that you plant a seed and it'll be in the ground. And if it grows and then it produces a seed,
Mm-hmm.
then it's in a reasonably happy place or condition. If it doesn't, then it's not happy. So nature is saying, I don't want this to grow here. Or I don't want this plant saying, I don't want to grow here. I'd rather be somewhere else. So you go
Okay.
with the plant where it's happy. And then
Okay.
that seed you put into the ground, and the sugars in the plant are feeding the microbes. But in that, there's information of what's the nutrients are lacking in the plant itself. So the microbes will just organize and do what it can to bond the relationship, because that's what they all they want. So that
Mm.
seed from the parent plant, if you like, would go into the ground, and then I've seen it, I've done it. The plant goes bigger and stronger, and then that
Mm-hmm.
seed goes back into the ground, and it goes bigger and stronger again. And I've seen proof of this around the world on industrial scale, where plants become resilient to pests, diseases, floods, and droughts, even. And
Are
it's
you saying
astonishing.
are you saying then that as the same plant species of plant grows in the same area, that the soil and the microbes in the soil come to adapt to be able to support that particular plant? And so as the new plants grow and the seeds drop and then the new plants grow, it continues to create an environment that's perfectly suited to that plant, and over the generations they just get stronger. Is that what you're saying?
That was the theory, and in practice,
Right.
that is exactly what happens with certain plants. Absolutely,
And so the
absolutely.
difference, I guess, from regular organic farming, because I've been a fan of organic farming for a long time, but I think you're saying this in a way takes it to another level in terms of allowing nature to decide, because rather than putting composts, even if they're supposedly natural composts, you're still putting something that's come from somewhere else onto a piece of land. You're saying let that land look after itself as much as possible. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yes, yes, yeah, in short. But the
Hmm.
compost that you can use comes from the actual place where you're growing
Okay.
food. Okay, so that you
Yeah.
can use compost, but only if it's coming from the debris of the plants which you're growing. Okay, so the
Yeah.
nutrients go back into the ground. So it's not no compost, but it's no alien influence. It
Right.
goes into growing the food. And for me, once, because I was on this quest for good whole food, that it just resonated. It just resonated for me because I'm feeling resonations in different places, and even the food wasn't resonating with me anymore. But this was just seemed to be the right thing to do, and I feel
Mm.
it is the right thing to do moving forward. You know,
Mm.
because
Mm.
everywhere we go, we plant food. We force nutrients into the ground for a particular plant because it's not used to growing there or doesn't want to grow there.
Mm.
And the idea is to let the plant resonate and become strong in its own environment, and let nature just do what it needs to do. And you end up with some really good, wholesome
Yeah.
food. There's no
And you're
doubt about it.
talking a lot about resonance. So are you saying really that, well, we're all energy ultimately? We all are frequencies. All energy has a frequency, and what you're trying to do by the sounds of it is bring your frequency in alignment with nature as much as possible, and in every aspect of your life. So moving away from the pharmaceuticals, the man-made pharmaceuticals, and finding natural compounds that can provide those things your body needs. And in terms of the food, moving to a system where nature's deciding rather than our ideas of what's best for plant growing. And so
Mm.
just bringing the frequency of yourself, your body, mind, soul, back into alignment with nature as much as you can.
Mhm.
Is
No,
that sort
absolutely.
of what you are aiming for?
Yeah, it really is. And I've done that to a large degree,
Mm,
where I'm finding that I'm more and more in resonance, my natural resonance, which
mm,
in turn it coincides with other natural resonances.
mm, mm.
So when you sort of take yourself out of the system and you start taking a lot of influences away, like bad food and alcohol, or too much screen time, and all these things don't resonate. You
Mm,
don't resonate with nature, so you're not getting the full benefits of nature.
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
and it's a common language that we've got going on, which we're kind of taking a step away from it, and we're not feeling it anymore. Everything out in nature offers a natural resonance as a healer, as a communication,
Mm.
as just a bond within a community.
Yeah.
And why we're not resonating as pure as we possibly can, we're not being a receptive or a receptor to pick up the natural resonances.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is so for me, the closer you can get to natural resonance, then you can go out and get real good healing from nature,
Mm,
because it's a common language. If you think of a common language of everything, you're talking about love, the love frequency,
mm,
which is um for me is an emotion. It's an emotional energy.
mm.
So when you go into nature, you're asking for something to come in, yeah, and it's offering. So it's offering you, because you go in there with an emotion, and an emotion is what you receive. So the emotion that something as in a tree would give is the love energy, and we are receiving the same thing. So I honestly feel that the common language between us, and no, we are nature, but us and nature and everything in its natural form and natural resonance is the common language of love, and that's an emotional energy.
Mm, mm,
I
mm.
hope that makes sense, but I can
Mm,
really
it
feel it when
does.
I go into nature.
It does. So the just going back to the diet for a moment, your diet has evolved again, and it sounds like you're still on a journey finding the perfect diet. Is that right? Your diet has moved on.
My
I know
diet has
from
moved
the
on.
vegan diet.
Yeah, it has moved on from the vegan diet. Yes. I did get I was eating a lot of grains. Okay.
Mm,
Um, and as I said, processed. It was something in my diet which I hadn't removed enough of, and I got a really bad bout of gout, arthritis. Is a similar scope. And to this time last year, was last year. This time last year, I was in February. I was bedbound. Literally couldn't walk because of my joints, both knees and both feet, and the pain was just another level. It was so much. I almost decided that I don't want to give up, because I just couldn't cope with it. I couldn't walk even more, than when I had my large injuries. So again, Stu went online and done some research and had a look about, and it was, oh, red meat gives you gout, and alcohol gives you gout, and you need to change this and that. But there's a couple of little things on the internet that I see, that people have put on, saying they've been eating meat and it's cured their arthritis.
by the way, Stu, if you want to shut the blind, I don't want to, you sitting
There
over
isn't there isn't there isn't a blind. I am going to be blind myself in a minute. No, I'm happy with the sun. I'm good.
are
It's
you?
good.
Okay.
I'll just I'll keep
Yeah.
leaning that way. Uh, yeah. So I,
So
so
yeah.
again, again, I decided to change my diet, because I'm a great believer is, if you're going to look into something and research it, live it, do it.
Mm,
You can have a real good opinion on if it's a real thing, if it works for you.
mm.
And so I decided to go a meat only diet from February last year, back into February last year. And
You were suffering with gout, as you said. It really set you back, and you are now as almost disabled as after your injuries. You do a bit of research, and you know, gout is usually, like you say, associated with a high meat diet. You were on a vegan diet, and you
pretty
decided
much,
to
yeah.
switch on to a meat diet. Um, and that was because you felt the grains particularly were causing inflammation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. In short, yes. Again, it's process, so I kind of let myself down a little bit. But it's a lot of things we eat is convenience.
Mm.
And for things like bread, you try and eat as good as you can. Organic, spelt bread, whatever you can. Less processed the better, and rightly so. But I felt like I was suffering from that, so I decided to change completely. It was just for a short time. I'll do it for 4 weeks and see how I feel if I can.
Mm.
Um, so it was a really basic diet, and it was just meat. I just had beefsteak for breakfast and and then steak again, and it was just steaks all the way through. I didn't have anything else. It was just I just had
So the
meat.
carnivorous diet, some people call
Yeah,
it.
lion's diet, I think they call it.
Oh,
Yeah,
lion's diet. Yeah.
yeah.
And how did you feel on that?
Honestly, I felt amazing.
Okay.
Absolutely, another level of energy. My
Mm.
my residual swelling and most of the pain had gone from my
Mm.
joints. I felt like I could do cartwheels, and I was
Mm.
bouncing around like, oh my God, this is just another level.
Mm.
So I stayed with it for another 3 months, and
Mm.
it was like I've never had any problems with my joints ever. It- I've had a couple of injuries where I dislocated it quite badly when I was doing some self-defense, and that's always niggled. Now I'm doing yoga, and I'm turning it in strange ways, and it's not bothering me.
Mm.
I'm not on the diet now. So much I do eat meat, but I've gone back onto a whole food diet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think a bit of cheese. No one's like, a god in all this or a goddess in all this. We like the nice bits in life. So I like a bit of chocolate and stuff. But ultimately, it's just anything in this whole form. And anything in
Yes.
this whole form, when I do try to keep it very basic, certainly this time of year, I don't eat a lot of fruit,
Mm.
and because there's not a lot of fruit about. And I can feel my body is just responding to it. It
Mm.
really is. I feel like I've got a lot of strength. I feel like I'm 50 years old. I feel like I'm 30.
Mm.
I
So
just feel that good.
again, trying to tune in with nature's cycles, eating with the seasons, eating whole foods. Um, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so I think the other thing that you've been doing really is just listening to your body, haven't you? And making those changes when your body tells you quite clearly something needs to change.
Yeah, and as subtle as they are, acts on it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, and I've done it myself, and many people do, is that you something will go into your mind, and you'll say, "Oh, maybe I should do this."
Mm.
Just do it. Just change it. Just change whatever it is that you feel that you need to be changing, because your body is saying something, and the only way to communicate for you to do it is words in your mind.
Mm.
Yeah, you can feel it, yes, but if you're not acting, or you need a good prompt, your body will be
Mm.
saying, I don't think I should be eating this bread.
Mm.
So don't. That's it. Just make the decision and don't, and just see how it feels.
Mm.
I'm an advocate for that, because I've gone down this road a few times now, and it's worked for me every time. It's
Mm.
just listening to whatever you feel, and then then say, well, let's just eat meat then, Stu. And then so I did, and it worked. So we need to really sort of tap in. Everything we do is from inside. Everything. We're all on our own journey here.
Mm.
There's the only thing in life we know is real is your own awareness. And if you
Mm.
don't listen to your own awareness, then whose journey on your own?
Mm.
So you need to listen to what's going on inside.
Yeah. Okay. So you've really rebuilt your physical health, and it's taken a while, and you've tried different things, and you've evolved, and but really coming back to nature and listening to your body, as you're saying. What about your lifestyle? What about your work now? Because obviously the business is gone. And that whole experience of losing the business and the dramatic health scares has shifted your whole mindset into a completely different place. So where have you settled now in terms of what feels right for you in terms of work and your day-to-day living?
I The term work is I use loosely. I don't work. And I live in a van. I live in a van pretty much all the time. I do some house sitting for people.
I was going to
And
say you maybe don't work in the conventional way that people would think, but you
no,
certainly don't just sit around. You do
no,
work,
no.
but in a different way, don't you?
I do. Well, yeah. I say I don't. The term work is kind of being demonized, because if you do work, you expect a return. But I don't. I just offer myself. I offer myself to other people who need help, and it doesn't matter what it is. If you want help and I'm able to,
Mm,
then if it's painting or if it's helping in the garden or it's giving a lift or it's looking after your house or whatever it may be, fixing something for you because I've still got the ability to fix machinery.
mm.
It's whatever, and I don't want anything in return. Yes, I do need to put a bit of diesel in the van,
You need
but
to eat.
and eat, yeah, but it's minimal. It really is
Mm,
minimal, and I'm so far removed of having to have put my energy, my currency, my energy out there to receive something which is wrapped in a satanic symbol of exchange, because what is it? And then you give that to someone else, and then wow, no, that's all part of my process of seeing the whole thing for what it is. And my
mm,
energy is what I choose and where I choose to give it. And what I've found is by having that ethos is offer my currency to other selves first, as long as I'm in a position to do it,
mhm.
then the universe pays you back. The universe really does pay you back. And having somewhere to go when it's really windy and cold, for a long period of time, it just presents itself.
Mm,
And these opportunities, I believe, have only come about because I'm in tune with one. Because I'm not doing anything for an exchange. I don't want. I'm happy to help, and I think
mm,
there's systems around it. I think the Ubuntu system in Africa sort of runs something similar to that. Is that you just put your time into the community, and then the community looks after itself. And I
mm,
and I totally on board with that because I put my time to help others, and then the universe, which is my community, gives me something back. I want as little financial exchange, as in money,
mm.
as I possibly can, because I do feel it taints my offerings for
I
sure.
mean, you had those injuries and those health problems because of a very stressful life. Some people may listen to what you're saying and think, gosh, that sounds stressful. You're you don't know where the money's going to come from to buy your food. You're living in a van, you haven't got a home. Um, that for some people would sound very stressful, but it sounds like you're saying it's the complete opposite. You've let
So
go of all of those trappings that most of us think we need, and actually the stress is completely lifted. Is
totally, yeah, yeah. I don't think we realize that how stressful the system is. Even I know some people who are quite affluent, they're doing well for themselves.
mm,
They haven't got to worry about getting their meat or they're putting fuel in their cars and that. But the stress around the money is they're still wrapped in it. They're still
mm,
wrapped in it because they've got so much to lose.
mm,
So someone who's got a lot of money will be listening to the financial exchanges on the news, or the banking rates have gone up and down, and it's all that we need to move money over. It doesn't matter if you're still wrapped up in that.
mm,
So the further you can remove yourself from that control, the freer you become. And I've found I'm in more contact with source and the one and the universe and manifestations and all the good bits in life that we don't realize are at the end of our fingertips if we just get into a natural resonance.
mm.
But yes, I still need to put diesel in the van.
It does take a lot of trust, though, doesn't it, to live in that way? And how do you how is it that you have that deep level of trust? Is that something to do with the awakening that you went through, do you think?
Well, for me, I, I know there's something else. I know I felt like I've got so close to experiencing something out of this reality
Mm,
that what's the worst that could ever happen if I put myself into a position of trust and
mm,
into a van, and hopefully the universe will offer things along my path to make my world a better place, and the better position I'm in, then I
mm.
can offer it to other people. you
Mm.
know. So yeah, yeah, that's where we are. Yeah, you've got to really put yourself into trust. The opposite of fear is trust, isn't it? And if you put yourself in a trusting place, then you start to eradicate fear,
Mm. And
and
you've
that's
seen, or you've experienced that when you do that, I mean, I feel that myself, that when we can get into that place of trust, then source, if you want to call it that, or the universe provides every time.
always,
Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
always, because I know that the worst thing that can happen to me is that I go back to source, and that's not such a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
It really
And
isn't.
so this podcast is relates to the heart, of course. How does the heart fit in all of this for you? So you've talked about love. Do you have a sense of, obviously for you, the heart was a big part of your journey in terms of the physical health problems, but is there anything about maybe the energetic heart, the spiritual heart, that speaks to you and feels important in this journey?
For sure. I've probably covered some of it, in as
Mm,
much as for me the love is a frequency, and it's an emotional energy,
mm,
and I believe that it's a common communication between everything,
mm,
the cosmos to tiny things that we can't see, to each other, to nature, to everything. It's the common language, and I feel
mm,
like that language is emotional.
mm,
Being in this reality, this density, I feel like we're here to experience emotions,
mhm,
because feeling emotions on a different level of consciousness probably isn't as dense as it is here. So this is my learning experience,
mm,
and love is that common language. It's that
mm,
common language of emotion. Doesn't, love for me doesn't necessarily have to be all love and light and flowers.
mm,
It's everything. It's communication of everything. There's a balance, where there's light, there's dark. Both
mm,
are frequencies of love, because they both need each other.
mm,
And if something needs each other, then there's the bond of love.
mm,
So we need to be a little bit careful. I feel that we start getting carried away with of love and light. Yes, there's a lot of darkness and things need to be lit up, but we need to balance things out for sure.
mm, mm.
That's
And so it
that's
sounds like you've moved away from that conventional currency of money that just didn't really sit right with you and your sort of deeper understanding of the world. And your new currency is love and kindness, compassion, all those heart energies. And you now want to give that out, and you're experiencing that when you do, it comes right back.
it comes right back every time. It just comes back. Love is lots of things. It's protection. People think that love is a hug and that, but love could be quite aggressive if it needs to protect something.
Mm,
It comes in all forms.
mm,
But yes, it's actually purely on love, and the emotional entwinement that
mm, mm.
comes with it is something.
So I'm sure people have been inspired hearing your story, and maybe a little spark has been ignited that, you know, maybe there's some changes that they might want to make after hearing your story. But not everyone's probably going to ditch the job, move into a van, and live in the same way that you do. And nor do they need to do that. But is there anything that you can offer people in terms of what are some changes that people can make in their lives now to sort of move more in the direction of living in that frequency of nature, that frequency of love? What can people do? Just maybe slightly smaller changes than you have done, but that can make a difference.
Well, they're all the same changes. It's not necessarily smaller.
Mm,
Obviously, in a van, it's an easy thing to go out and get into nature, but it's literally going out into nature more. But go into nature with openness. you know,
Mm.
to receive and to give. It's a two-way thing.
Mm.
You know, if you go to a tree and say, ask the tree, you know, I'm feeling sad because of, can you help me? And then just and open up yourself to receive something back in. And when you're, for example, next to a tree, you don't necessarily feel a pizzazz and a zing. Go back, go back home. Just be gentle with yourself, and it will percolate through, and
Mm.
something will change within. You know, it's
Mm.
not a lot of people, and this is the problem with the modern day society. You're expecting a hit straight away. Take a
Mm.
farmer pill, have a beer, get your fun, bungee jump. You know, it's an instrument. It doesn't work that way. You
It's
know,
more
there are
subtle.
things you could do, but it's all slow and it percolates. And
Mm.
and offer when you do something for someone else or do a service. Think to yourself: do I need to have a symbolized currency put in between my relationship between me helping someone? If you
Mm.
do, then happily accept it. If you don't, then don't receive it and just say thank you. Both say thank you. Some
Mm.
people feel like they feel like they have to and they need to give you something because they don't know, haven't got a setting for what you're doing, you know,
Mm.
which is fine, and then, you know, gratefully receive it.
Mm.
But ultimately, if you go in there with, I just want to offer my services to other selves,
Mm.
and then just see how that settles. And then you'll find that some things within the universe will start shifting and start
Mm.
aligning different in your life.
Mm.
I
Mm.
found that profoundly. So you haven't got to move out your house and, you know,
Mm.
stop paying your bills, and you haven't got to do any of that. You know,
Mm.
you do whatever you do in your life to put you into a settled, soothing position, then
Mm.
that's your baseline. And then anything other than that, rather than trying to, oh, I need a big house, a big estate, and Jonesy's have got a big, you know, these are the things we're big tripping up on ourselves. Get a
Mm.
baseline, get what you need, and then start offering yourself out, and
Mm.
just see how that changes.
Mm. I like what you say about the sort of more subtle communications with nature, because, yeah, I think I found certainly that the more time I spend just quietly in nature, the more I can pick up, the sort of subtle communications that may come. And, most people love being in nature, but I think it's about spending time just quietly being with trees, flowers, whatever it is, and just spending time quietly, just waiting and being, rather than sort of marching through and, yeah, those flowers are nice and this is a good walk. But I think it is about spending time, isn't it? And just slowly building that relationship.
Yeah, totally
Um,
agree. I mean, you can fine tune it if you want. For me or many other people, if I'm feeling like I need physical or emotional healing,
mm,
going to nature where, you know, it's quiet, and you ask for some healing, and just see how that settles in. But
mm,
if you're feeling a little bit low on energy, you know, and you feel, you know, I haven't got much go in me lately, then, well, if the sea's choppy, go and stand next to the sea. Or if there's a storm brewing, go into the storm, you know, because there's different ways you can adapt to sort of get a feedback from nature, you know.
mm,
It is literally, you go in there with and just asking and feeding back on that.
mm,
Yeah,
mm,
there's no wrong way to do anything. You know, we all do things differently. We don't do things wrong when we engage in nature. There's nothing you can do wrong if you go in
mm,
there with an open heart. There's nothing you can do wrong.
mm, mm.
Uh-huh.
Lovely. Well, Stuart, it's a shame we haven't been able to see your eyes for the last
I'm
bit of this.
sorry.
Oh, now we
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
So I don't want to
yeah.
make you
I can't
stare
see
into
you
the
now, but
sun.
hey.
Yes. Oh, it's nice to see your whole face lit up. Um, Thank you so much for telling your story, Stu. And I'm sure that it will have sparked a lot of little seeds in people. There's many aspects to your story, that the losing your mum at a young age, we all go through grief at some time or another. Health problems, I mean, yours are quite dramatic, but we all experience troubles with our health in different ways. And I love how you have used that engineering mind of yours to explore and discover, and you're still on that journey, but you've been persistent in searching for ways that you can tune in to that resonance which feels so right and has always felt so right for you for your whole life. Anything else you want to share finally?
Well, first of all, thank you for soothing me, because I was a little bit nervous. So thank you to you.
Oh, you've done
And yeah, just I say, but practice offering yourself out as opposed to trying to receive things in. You know, that's the first point is give yourself out. As long as you're in a position to do so, but offer out and things will just naturally come in.
Brilliant. Thank you, Stu. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. And thank you for all who've been watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join us again soon. Thank you, and bye for now.